In charge of Catherine Connolly.
Minister, my question is, when will the report of the independent review panel into the care of the 3 children who suffered heinous sexual abuse while in care, under the care of the Health Executive and subsequently TUSLA, when will it be published? And my question takes on an acute meaning, really, given the leak of the report last week and the 22 pages with its damning findings.
Thank you, Deputy. TUSLA today has published a summary report in respect of the care of 3 children in the foster home in County Galway. Once again, and particularly in light of today's publication, I would like to sincerely acknowledge the pain and distress suffered by the 3 women at the centre of this report. Lessons have been learned and will continue to be learned from the findings of this investigation. No child should be exposed to the clear risks that were evident after the first disclosures in 2007. The report provides a sober, full account of what happened and a clear analysis of the failures that occurred in managing the case. In particular, the report finds that there was enough evidence at the time of the disclosure to warrant the removal of the remaining foster children from their placement. It finds that the safety plan was flawed and that there was a management failure to recognize the seriousness and the complexity of the case. These were very grave errors which have led to lives being changed forever. And in the intervening years since this, there have been changes with TUSLA's practices and standards, and they are now far advanced from those of the HSE service in the past. TUSLA has worked hard to improve its child protection and foster care services by way of standards and staffing, resources and practices, and I want to make sure that they continue to do so. Today's report includes 4 recommendations. 2 of these are on the development of practice within TUSLA, that there is a review of the national policy and procedures for the linked social worker role, and for TUSLA to include risk assessment and skills related to managing child sex abuse cases as core professional development in the Signs of Safety practice framework. And a further 2 of the major recommendations include developing an integrated approach to the investigation, assessment, and a management of child sex abuse allegations. And as referenced in the report, work's already underway with the development of the one-house barnhouse model, and that will be in Galway, that first centre.
Thank you, Minister. I didn't quite catch, did you say it was a summary report that's been published? A summary. Well, the first question is, why is there a summary report published? Secondly, is that what was leaked last week, the 22 pages, is just a summary report? Thirdly, could you clarify, please, how we could possibly have taken up to now for a summary report to be published? And is it being published simply because it was leaked? Who was it leaked by? Have you any idea? Does TUSLA know who leaked it? It's very important that a report of this nature should not be leaked. We have raised it continuously through leaders' questions. I looked back, I've raised it I think 9 times in the last year. It should have come into the Dáil through the Minister for Health or through yourself, Minister, and that report should have been presented to us in the Dáil and discussed. Now, how could it possibly have taken this long? You told me in replies that it was published or completed the end of November last year. That is 6 solid months ago, and it's been published in summary form now because of a leak. Now, there are questions there that I would really like simple, straight answers to.
Absolutely, Deputy. So I'll do my best to answer some of those questions. First of all, in relation to the leak, we don't know who leaked it. I can absolutely assure the Deputy it was not from our sources, from TUSLA. The publication for the summary report was planned for today. It was planned for today. And that's when it has been published. That, I think, is one of your questions. Secondly, why is it a summary report and not the full report? My understanding is that the NRP took legal advice in relation to the full report, the TUSLA took legal advice in relation to the publication of the full report, and actually that in light of the different, I suppose, identifications of of people or etc. in relation to that report, that it was that it would need to be in a summary form, the summary, and that the full report could not be published, or that they're recommending that it would not be. But the summary form outlines the recommendations in terms of what's needed for change there, and that in terms of the work that my own department has done tells me that fully incorporates what is necessary in order for us to move forward with the changes.
Second supplementary.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you for making the effort to answer straight to me. But I have difficulty in believing in this process. Great difficulty. Now, I see no sign in the replies to me that today was the due day for the publication of a summary report. It simply didn't occur to anyone doing the replies on your behalf to tell me that today was today. That raises serious questions in my mind in relation to trust. Secondly, I believe it was leaked, and for a purpose, that somebody, and I'm only surmising, felt that this report was never going to be published, and somebody took it upon themselves to leak it. Now, that's deeply troubling, if that's what happened. And I don't want to believe that narrative, but when I look back, I see nothing else. Now, that a report should be leaked in this matter is unacceptable. Have TUSLA carried out a review into the leak? Number one, which is extraordinary, seeing as they were carrying out a review into their behaviour and their handling of this. And secondly, why was it not brought back in? If today was the day, were you going to bring it back in before the government, before us today in the Dáil, so we could discuss it? Given what happened here, Minister, it was set up in 2016, it was 3 years later we get a leaked report, and it's gone back to heinous abuse. Thank you.
Final response to...
Yes, thank you. Deputy, just in relation to your first set of questions about that it was never indicated to you that this was the day, I will check on that. My understanding, yeah, no, I understand that. I accept what you're saying, and I will check as to why that is not the case. But I always understood that it is that. I'm not sure exactly when that decision was made, but and again, this has to do with the TUSLA asked for the report. The report is done by the NRP. It's presented to the chair of TUSLA, and then they decide to put out the report. And that this decided it was to put out today. I don't know. I don't think any review has been done of the leak. I appreciate that the deputy is concerned in terms of the motivations. We are too. About why that leak would happen, but it certainly was always intended. Always that it would be that the report would be put out, and ultimately, in terms of legal advice, that it was put out in summary form.